Hello. We're excited for our third day today of Gathering Places, Creative Conversations, which is a three-part virtual series that explores the intersections of urban life, placemaking, and artistic expression. My name is Madeline Spencer. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm the co-director of Placemaking US. And in this program, you're going to hear from nationally acclaimed creative placemakers and Portland area placemaking grantees who will share their inspiration, artistic journeys, and the unique challenges of working with community spaces. In collaboration with Placemaking US, Gathering Places is co-presented and sponsored by the Community Placemaking Program of Metro, the Greater Portland Area's regional government that serves 24 cities and 3 counties in Oregon. Our esteemed guests come from diverse disciplines within the creative placemaking realm, including arts federations, urban design, community arts, and more. The Gathering Place Creative Conversation Series not only celebrates the vast spectrum of artistic practices, but it also aims to demystify the creative process in placemaking for the audience. It's offering a deep dive into the dedication required for a life in the realm of creative placemaking. The series shines a spotlight on Portland's flourishing creative community, fostering a deeper appreciation for centering the arts within its urban landscape. After each event, we have a lively question and answer period. So make sure that you take notes about what kind of questions that you would like to ask, and we will open it up to all of you afterwards. And just to start off and learn more about Metro, Dana Lucero is here to share.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Madeline. I really appreciate everybody who's taken time out of their day to join us. Metro's community placemaking program is really pleased to start hosting conversations like this. So thanks. I see some familiar faces who've joined us for the last 2 days. So thanks for going on this journey with us. And so you're going to hear some of the same stuff from me for those who've joined us. And the rest of you, I want to share what Metro is. Even folks in our region don't necessarily have great familiarity with us. So I'm going to walk you through a little, which is the organization that is offering these community placemaking grants. We are regional government for the Greater Portland area. In the 50s, there was a recognition that, the farms and forests were being threatened by urbanization, that we wanted to coordinate regional services, make plans for infrastructure. And so all that laid the groundwork to establish Metro as the only directly elected regional government in the country. And so, like Madeline said, we serve more than 1.7 million people in Portland and the 23 surrounding cities. And the blue boundary is what we call our urban growth boundary. And it's within those limits that community placemaking grant activities can happen. So anything outside of that, unfortunately, is not eligible for these grants. Like I said, we have a directly elected Metro Council. And we also handle a lot of different types of things in the region, things that tend to cross jurisdictional boundaries. So we have significant regional parks and trails. We handle the solid waste and recycling streams. We have major visitor venues like the zoo and performing arts centers. And the community placemaking grant program actually lives in our planning department. And it was created in 2017 with a recognition that of all of the things we do to make a healthy region, we were missing an opportunity to directly invest in human and social capital. And so we developed this program. Community placemaking grants support community-driven, equity-centered arts and culture efforts that strengthen people's connections to each other in the places that they care about. Placemaking can mean a lot of different things. So we recognize as the government, it's our job to trust community knows what it needs for itself. So whether it's totally transforming places or safeguarding and protecting them, that spectrum is fully supported by this grant program. And we just want to make sure that it's on the community driven side rather than individually driven. Like I said, we established the program in 2017, and since that time, we've supported 88 different community efforts with about $1.5 million. We're about to open up our next grant cycle. Applications will open in early August, and this is a big increase this year. We now have $450,000 to award, up from $200,000 for the last few years. Grants range from $5,000 to $25,000, and we don't require any matching funds. Like I said, those projects must take place within Metro's urban growth boundary. And applications will be due October 4th at noon, and we will let folks know if they have received a grant from us in January. We'll also hold some virtual information sessions. So if you haven't signed up for our email update list, make sure you do that, because they're pretty helpful and informative. This is where you can find all of the information about this next year's grant cycle. The application handbook will be published online quite soon. You'll find the link to the online application once it's opened. You can watch a recorded information session if you're not able to attend. And you can read about the stories and the past projects we've funded to get a good sense of what is competitive in this grant program. I am absolutely here to help you if you're thinking about applying. My contact information is here, so please do be in touch if you're interested, if you're thinking about applying. And that is all I'm going to say about the program, and I appreciate those who've heard this spiel 3 times. And I'm going to turn it back over to Madeline to introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, so first up, we have our creative placemaker and muralist, Amy Tanaka from Long Beach, California. Amy is a dedicated artist who seamlessly integrates her passion for sustainability and fresh food movement, gardening, and children's education into her work. She's spearheaded numerous community engagement projects, including mural installation, Kids Fall Festival, Green Long Beach Festival, Firehouse Fiber Arts Shows, and art education workshops. And through these initiatives, Amy fosters unity and pride with the community, creating vibrant public spaces and enriching the lives of local residents. Amy, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Happy Thursday. My name is Amy Tanaka. Let me start my little slide. I have some visuals for you because as an artist, we love visuals, right? Let me start my share. We'll go back with you. So, art for community engagement. Like I said, my name is Amy Tanaka. I'm actually a freelance artist doing murals, graphic design, and hand lettering. I'm also a sign artist for Trader Joe's. I've been there for 13 years, and that's how it all started, doing sign art in the community. I am a wife and a mother of 2 boys, and if you must know some of my past things, I do have a Bachelor of Arts degree in studio art at Cal State Long Beach. I did take an online course for getting a certificate at the Interior Design Institute. And I was a co-owner with my boyfriend at the time, by now my husband, Mixed Media Art Studio in downtown Long Beach, which was a studio and a shop, and where we held like a lot of different things, and I'll talk about that next. I've also done regenerative landscape design with a local landscaper. And I've worked for nonprofits in LA and Long Beach, and also worked for the Office of Sustainability in the city of Long Beach. So part of my story is I was trying to think about, when does this all started me getting involved with the community? And I guess I grew and lived in, I was born in Long Beach, but grew up in Lakewood. And then, which is like neighbors around here. And I asked myself, well, what moves me? So after college, I decided to go live in LA in Westwood and work for a nonprofit called CauseCast. And they were kind of like a social media platform where they housed different nonprofits and marketed these nonprofits so they can gain more awareness. So I was their social media content intern. So I moved from LA to Long Beach, a little scary for me, even though it's only 20 minutes, 25 minutes away. It depends on traffic. You could be in traffic for an hour. But it was a big move for me because I'd never been out on my own, and just decided to do something that was that I felt moved to do in my heart, to work for a nonprofit and do something that felt I we try to make an impact doing. So, sorry, I'm getting over a cold too. So I asked myself, well, how can I infuse my art into projects? And then as we go along, you'll kind of see how my art kind of played in these different roles of sustainability and environmentalism, food access and health projects, community and education, and also even the local economy and diversity. This picture is to the left is actually when I worked at the Office of Sustainability, the city of Long Beach, and there was a edible garden project that we did downstairs of City Hall. And when I started working there, I was looking around and I was just like, it needs more color. We need to have signage that tells these people that are walking by like what each vegetable is, or have an even larger sign telling about the whole project in general. So actually, when I worked for the Office of Sustainability, I did a lot of the graphics, the marketing materials, hand-painted signage. What else? A lot of building, a lot of DIY building because we were sustainability. So taking pallets and making them into benches so people could sit on. So a lot of different fun stuff. When I lived in LA, I decided that it was a little too big for me, I felt, to make an impact. Like I just wanted it to be a little bit more intimate, whatever I got involved in. So I looked to moving back to Long Beach, and I happened to find a nonprofit called Green Long Beach. And this was back in like 2009, 2010. And I reached out and they said, yes, we would love to have you help us volunteer for our festival. So I went back and they didn't really have anyone to help out with their marketing materials, website, and just overall just the creative process of putting a festival out there and visually making it appealing to make for people to come. So I did a lot of the graphics here, and this is just one of them. This was from the 2012 festival. You know, what was fun is each festival was based off of a different concept. Like this one was Change in the Air, had to do with air pollution. The one before that was like Ignite Change, had to do with earth and fire. I think one of them had to do with water. So we are always talking about the elements in each of our festivals. And we always, well, what I was responsible for the festivals too, day of, was holding the eco fashion fashion show, and kind of gathering up all the other artists and musicians for the entertainment part of it, and also creating DIY decor that kind of showed how we can do things more in a low waste fashion. The next picture here you see is when I had my store and studio downtown called Mixed Media Arts, and this was with my husband. We did this. It was in the Arts District, and we offered a little bit more sustainable art supplies, eco-friendly supplies, and workshops for kids. We also did art shows. We also helped put on the Third and Elm art walk I think it was every first Saturday or every second Saturday of the month. And it built a lot of community. Like I have never felt so supported in my life by the community when we opened up our shop. It's like everyone that I worked with for Green Long Beach or in that community and that was involved in even networking really supported us here at our shop. This is kind of it almost felt like an extension of Green Long Beach, but in a business aspect. So that was a lot of fun. And just down here, the claymation picture here was one of the videos. I was trying to find the video, but it's been so long. I don't know where it's at. It's probably my old computer, but was one of the videos we created for the Green Long Beach Festival. And it had to do with a child coming with the idea on how to be more sustainable. So a friend of mine that does claymation, Carol Roz, she partnered with me and we created this claymation video to show at the festival. So that was a lot of fun. Just another way to get the message out about the purpose of the festival. Next is the Bixby Knolls Farmers Market mural. And this was in 2021, 2022, maybe. It was actually a 2-year project because it's a very long wall located in Bixby Knolls in Long Beach. And it's at the Bixby Knolls Farmers Market. So there's these 2 large walls. This was on the left. This is the first wall. with the brain and the food. So I partnered with Long Beach Fresh and the farmers market for this mural. And it was kind of centered around the time when we were starting to come out of COVID restrictions. And so we really wanted to focus on health and mental health, especially, and bringing back community out into public spaces. So I was responsible for gathering the volunteers, designing this mural, and the concept of it. And I think we spent 3 days, was it 3 or 4 days on this mural? And a lot of, I don't have the picture, there's not a whole lot of people there, but we actually had a lot of people show up. And what was fun is a lot of people that were shopping at the farmer's market saw us painting this mural. And so they came out and started painting with us just randomly, if it was just for even for a few minutes. And we started having these conversations about our experiences during COVID, or what was the mural about. So it was a nice time getting back to talking to our neighbors again. Let's see. It also kind of visually communicated market offerings. So the mural on the bottom right is the second half of the mural that we did. I kind of showed what the mural was all about, what the market was all about, offering fresh food. And at the time, Long Beach Fresh was marketing their event there as a delicacy seafood festival. So we invited other vendors there that were that knew how to cook and are selling like seafood related items. And so that's why you see like the abalone shell and shrimp and everything. So it was kind of like a nod to that delicacy festival as well. So overall, this space here at the farmers market was really activated. And even the farmers market, Kelly Johnson, she's the manager, brought in blue chairs, like what's it called, anoretic chairs, for everyone to sit at. So everyone was kind of more gathering and eating and connecting at the farmers market. It wasn't just, drop by, pick up, leave. It was like people were actually staying and having fun. And there was like games that Kelly also brought out for people to play. So it really activated the space and beautified it at the same time. One of my pride and joys, I love this event that we put on. Every year, my family goes to Oakland to go apple picking for when the fall begins. And so right now I live in North Long Beach, which really doesn't get activated too much, unfortunately, as much as downtown Long Beach, or if you're from here, like 2nd Street and everything, or East Side. And so I thought to myself, I was like, there isn't really any pumpkin patches here for the kids or activities for these kids in this area. And I have 2 boys of my own as well. And so I was just thinking, like, why don't we create an event? And so the Firehouse Farm that's located like literally 3 blocks from me, that would be a perfect space, as I just started getting involved with that location, which is an old firehouse used by the fire department. I think it had been there since the 1930s, but I think since 2013, they weren't using it anymore because they had a new firehouse built just couple blocks down from there as well. So the space was being utilized by the UC Master Gardeners program, like a teaching garden. And so I actually collaborated with them to hold this event there. And they were also involved with helping us grow some pumpkins before the festival, like starting in May or June, when I brought up this idea of the festival. So they grew pumpkins there so that by festival time we had them, but also the kids can actually see how these pumpkins were growing there along with the rest of the garden. At the festival, we tried to make it as low waste as possible. So again, trying to be a little bit more green. All the vendors we asked if they could not pass out any like business cards, flyers, paper goods that honestly we didn't feel that children would be interested in. They're more there for fun, right? And so instead we had each vendor create an activity to engage the kids instead, because then also the kids would want to stay, and the kids and parents would want to stay there at their booth longer to learn more about what they were offering. So we thought that was a little bit better of an idea to utilize their time and space. And then we also had a space for the kids to do DIY workshops. And I held one of those, having the kids learn how to make DIY clay that smelled like apple spice or pumpkin spice, you know, seasonal smells. So we kind of, all the projects kind of stimulated their sensories, their like touch, feel, smell, and everything. We had music. We also offered a farm stand full of just fresh veggies, seasonal veggies and fruits from the local farmers market, as part of the grant that we got through the Long Beach Recovery Act and a grant from the Long Beach Arts Council. So we use these grants to pretty much just give everything back to these kids through workshops, through food, we had donated over 100 pumpkins. We still had some left over. And actually we had, I think, about 118 kids and 130 or 140 adults. The space was really over capacity, but it was really hard to, I guess one of the challenges was hard to maintain that because we had such a large interest in that community where people were coming. So that's the success of it, was that it was a success and everyone wanted to come, and they were actually asking when would we have another festival the next year. But unfortunately, this space has been lost. A new council member has taken over the space for their work, so we can't use the space anymore. The most recent projects I did was the produce to market program that actually worked with Long Beach Fresh, the nonprofit, and it was to bring Long Beach Farms produce into neighborhood shelves in 6 different areas, underdeserved areas in Long Beach that had a little bit more of a challenge with obesity and diabetes in those locations. So the goal was to bring more fresh fruits and vegetables into these small mom and pops, we would call them liquor stores, so that people that couldn't maybe make it to the farmer's market could just walk down the street to the local mom and pop shop to buy these fresh veggies and fruits from Long Beach. So I was in charge of doing signage and displays because I work at Trader Joe's. So some of the displays kind of look like Trader Joe's in there, but you know, that's what I'm used to. So it was a lot of fun doing this project. Some of the challenges I would say is pricing, because you kind of are having to think about the other grocery stores in the area that are also selling those produce as well. The demand, because this was a new project, how can we get people to know to go to these shops? When usually when you think of a liquor shop, you don't think of really like a lot of fresh fruits and veggies on the shelf there. So it was like trying to get the word out that way. Also for me, doing the displays, it was a challenge finding space, honestly, because some of these spaces are so small and compact, and asking the owners to give up space of items that they already have on a shelf that could already be selling and producing money for them for a new project that, you know, like, will it work, will it won't, you know, was a little challenging at first. But I think overall getting the message across to these owners is that this is going to help improve the community and the neighborhood, and something new that the neighbors will want to come to. Let's see. I think overall it's also creating a change of habits, right? Because at least that's how I thought of it in the beginning. Is just like, we're asking people to change their routine. Instead of going to the supermarket, change your habit and walk to the corner store. Or instead of going rushing to the farmer's market on a Thursday, know that you can go any day to the corner store and buy your produce. So it was like switching gears in people's minds as well, but also seeing that a store on the corner doesn't just have to be all junk food. It can also provide these fresh veggies and fruits from your local Long Beach farms. So that was a fun project. This mural, Ancestral Markings, was actually a little bit of an extension of the Produce to Market program, because A&F Market was one of the recipients of the produce that we brought in for the program. And they are an Asian-based market, and they already actually have a lot of fruits and veggies in there, but we wanted to bring in some other stuff that they may not have. But from the outside, I should have posted a before picture, but from the outside, the store didn't didn't have anything on the walls. It was kind of just one sign. This is a shop that's on the west side too, so there's not a whole lot of murals over there. And so we thought, why don't we put a mural on the wall? Let's showcase this, because it's actually on a very busy street and we'll get a lot of looks. And so we wanted to incorporate some of the fresh veggies and fruit that were on the inside and bring them out onto the outside wall so people can see that this is what the shop is about. So during that process, we asked the Filipino community, which is about a large percentage of residents on the west side, how can we incorporate the culture into the mural with the fresh fruits and veggies? And during the process, we found out that the Filipino community had also been trying to do a mural to kind of make it a landmark for their community, saying we're here. And so they actually asked if I could partner with one of their artists. Her name's Jamuna Pretty, and she's in the picture to the right with me. And me and her kicked it off right away with this idea that, yes, we wanted to incorporate the fruits and veggies. We also wanted to incorporate some kind of pattern or textural component to this mural. So we included the tribal signs, which was like from their tattoos, or we're also talking about like what kind of patterns do we see in like baskets, like the weaving and everything. So this is the design that we came up with together to make it simple and straightforward, but also we had to keep in mind that this wall was all stucco. So it was really hard to paint on, and painting on with brush at first was very challenging and slow until, thank goodness, she had a paint gun and we used that. And I cut out stencils for the pattern in the background, and we were able to get it done much faster. So this mural in particular was supported and funded by Long Beach Fresh, by Community Engagement Inc., and the Long Beach Filipino Festival. And after this mural was complete within 8 days, it was actually unveiled at the Filipino Festival back in, I think it was beginning of May. So I asked the organizer, I said, how was the response from the community, the Filipino community, after seeing this unveiling? And they just felt like, I guess, so much more pride in knowing that the idea of creating this community for them was kind of coming together through just a mural, but this mural being on a busy street on Willow and Santa Fe and showcasing their culture, like, really meant a lot to them. So it was kind of cool to see the expansion of this mural, just talk about fruit and veggies, to like expanding into the Filipino community and their pride. So it's always going to be there now for them. I just wanted to show a short video. I'll kind of push it forward, it's kind of long, but this is the process. So that's spray gun.
I just want to mention during this video that the family came out during the painting, a family who had been coming there for 80 years, and they had actually described how this was the very first place that actually provided the food for the Filipino community. And I think that's another really important part of this, which is like, food really does represent culture, and where people can get food that represents them is really important to being able to have your own culinary cuisine.
I kind of fast forward it a little bit. So that was a fun project we did that incorporated art and food and culture. And I just want to say that store, it's for all Southeast Asian cultures and food. So the owner themselves are Cambodian, and so it was like really nice to be on that side of town and work with everyone there. And honestly, I think that was one of the first murals I did that really incorporated different cultures like that, and just getting everyone's vibe when they're walking by and talking about it and getting all excited about it and saying how beautiful it was. And it was much nicer than the beige wall that was sitting there for so long. So it was kind of exciting for everybody. That was part of my presentation. Just a little bit on this picture painting to the right. That's the Growing Experience Urban Farm, located down the street from me. It's a farm that produces a lot of food for the community. Saturdays they do food gatherings and share crops with each other. And so they asked me to come and paint a sign for them outside of this large fence. You you can't really tell what it is behind the fence. So the signage that we did there really helps bring a little bit more warmth and color to that area. But that was just something on the side I wanted to share with you. But thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Keep incorporating artists and creatives into your projects, because there's so many ideas that can blossom from that. And I really appreciate everyone for allowing me to come and speak and share with you these projects. Thank you, Oregon Metro, and thank you, Placemaking US. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I just wanted to say really quick, as a reflection of what you just shared, something that is often overlooked in all of the different kind of placemaking projects is this idea of signage and how important it is to let people know that you're there. And through signage, graphics, marketing, the decor, creating the recognition of the place and appealing to the community so that they know you're there, it's so important. And that work that you do is so important to knowing where the farmers market is, to knowing where you can go to eat good food, etc. And I think that, and also to knowing that your Filipino store is right there, and also Cambodian and all the other groups that are represented. And I also wanted to acknowledge the fact that you seem to care a lot about eco-friendly and making sure that through the shop that you guys had, it actually connected you to community, and you're sharing about the significance of health, mental health, and bringing people in for community during COVID, and also the highlighting of fresh food, which is so important to human health, of course, and how these different spaces actually were built up to provide space and place for community to gather. And I loved the pumpkin patch idea that you came up with, and that sign was beautiful, to take something that there was a vacant lot, or it's a lot filled with fresh food, and turn it into a place where kids and families can come and experience something that they might not normally have. And also finally the mural, which was such a beautiful external expression of something, and the work that you were doing inside, which was helping to convert a liquor store into a place that actually has local farms feeding the community, and then at the same time letting the folks feel that their ancestral markings are representing them. And I appreciate so much all that you have shared, and how placemaking does this for community. And it's a specific thing that you're doing, which is the murals and the signage, which is so important.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And now we are going to move on. And we have up Angeles Godinez Valencia, who is an education director at Centro Cultural, and she's also a city councilor, and she is in Portland, Oregon. And as the director of education at Centro Cultural and the city councilor for Cornelius Angeles Godinez Valencia is committed to building meaningful partnerships for change and developing culturally specific programs for the Latinx community. And but beyond her professional commitments, Angeles volunteers her time as a Cornelius City Councilor and contributes to science after-school programs at Neil Armstrong Middle School and Tom McCall Upper Elementary. Her dedication to working with Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC communities, and youth from marginalized communities and non-traditional students allows her to effectively advocate for the underrepresented voices in the education system within her community and city. Angeles creates unique culturally specific lessons in technology and engineering, and through her extensive professional and volunteer work, she has learned to understand and respect the needs of her community, ensuring that everyone has access to equitable opportunities. We're excited to learn more from you.
Thank you so much for having me. So like it was mentioned, my name is Angeles and I have the dream job. I get to work for Centro Cultural as their education director. And that means that I get to actively give back to my community in ways that, you know, I could only wish growing up. And so for me, just to give you a little bit of background about Centro Cultural, you know, we were founded over 52 years ago. So 1972 to be exact, by a group of migrant families who lived here in Washington County and they wanted to make it their permanent home. For those of you that don't know a lot about the history here in Washington County, there's a lot of farm workers, a lot of, you know, low income migrant farm workers. We have a lot of immigrant refugees, and with back in the 70s, and you know, some people could argue that there's still some of that happening now. You know, there was a lot of discrimination. Specifically, our community was being targeted by the police. And so the community members didn't feel like there was a place for them to be able to, you know, talk about what was going on and really advocate for themselves. Oh, I'm sorry, I just moved that in there. Advocate for themselves. And so one of the big things that came from this group, we call them the founding families. So it was families that came together. And so they started Centro and from a house, and now we are still on the same property, but we have expanded and we are no longer in that small house. We have a very large facility, and we're really focused on making sure that we can provide a refuge for our community where they can access a variety of wraparound services that I'll explain a little bit more in detail, but also, you know, to really be able to celebrate their community and who they are. So for those of you that don't know where we are located, we're located in Cornelius, Oregon. And so about, depending on traffic, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour away from Portland. And so we're the little star here. The area, as I mentioned, is when I've lived in Cornelius my entire life, and growing up, it was very much rural. And now, you know, we've developed with the expansion of the urban growth line. So it is very much a mix. You still have a lot of families that live and work in the farms. And then you have a lot of developments that are now entering the town. So it's definitely expanded a lot. And even the organization has expanded. Like I mentioned, we were started by a group of family members that came together because they wanted a place to be able to really, you know, advocate for themselves. And even when I started at Centro back in 2017, there was only, I believe, about 7 of us full-time employees. And now we're over 100 employees. And, you know, we just continue to grow, but it's because of that same mentality of whatever our community needs, we will respond. So when people ask us like, oh, well, how did you come up with this program? Or how did this come to be? It's because our community asked for it. You know, we very much are always listening to what they have to say. And our executive director, Maria Caballero Rubio, if any of you have ever met her, amazing, amazing woman. And she has always told us that if you ever feel like, you know, they really need this, if we know that they need this service and we can't provide it, then we need to find a way to provide it to them, whether that be just getting funds or finding other partner organizations or even creating the programs themselves. So that is how we got from 7 to over 100 employees employees. And who is our community? So we have over 13,000 individuals that have been impacted by the work that we do, whether it's coming to our events or being a partner or being at one of our partnered events. We work a lot with a variety of different organizations, specifically clients that we have served through Centro, through our services. It's 3,074. And then 65% of our clients identify as females and 82 identify as Latinos. And our mission is really a home for Latino cultures. You know, Centro serves the need of our community by making sure that we're really promoting personal growth and empowerment. And the way that we're able to do that is 6 pillars that really create the foundation for which we fulfill our mission. And so those are community health and wellness. We have our community voz en transformation, our Centro de Prosperidad. We have our housing stability and belonging department. We have our mercado, and lastly, youth development. So just to give you a brief description of what all the departments do, our community health and wellness department is really just focused on providing our community with those connections of navigating the intricacies of the healthcare system and really advocating to make sure that they have the resources that they need. So we have our Sábado Saludables, which is every other Saturday. We offer a variety of, we have HIV testing. At what point we were doing COVID vaccines, and we're doing blood pressure tests. There's just a variety of education pieces that we're making sure that our community has access to. And there's other partner organizations that we make sure to connect with so that we can provide those to our community. We also have our community voice and transformation department. So they're really focused on that civic leadership engagement piece, you know, making sure that we're creating, one of the big things we don't want to do is create those Band-Aid solutions, right? We're really looking for that systematic change and making sure that we break down those barriers to those inequalities, and whether that be for housing, transportation, health, right? So that's really what this department is focused on. And so we have our Latino Policy Council, we have our Justice Climate Leadership Youth Program, our Promotores Ambientales, and also we have DACA renewal assistance that we offer. And then there's Prosperidad, which is our workforce business team, and they really empower individuals to make sure that not only are we promoting and fostering entrepreneurship, but we're also making sure that we're enhancing the socioeconomic opportunities that our community has access to. And so with that comes a variety of programs that we offer. So we have the workforce development side, anything from GED assistance to finding those direct work training programs, right? And so that's the thing about understanding what your community needs, is having those one-on-one conversations with our clients as they come in and really understanding where they're at so we can meet their needs. And then we have our housing stability and belonging department. So again, this is a program that came as a result of the pandemic, and when we saw the rise of homelessness in the county and, you know, throughout many other states as well. And so during the pandemic, we were able to buy a motel, and now it's been created into a non-congregate shelter for families. And we also have, you know, case management and really making sure that it's a whole wraparound support, because you can't just say you're going to give someone housing and then you know, they're on their own. You have to make sure that all of those pieces and all those services that are needed are provided so that the family is able to be resilient. And we also have our Mercado program, which is a free food pantry set up like a grocery store, but it's culturally specific. So a lot of times we were noticing that our families would come to the food pantry and, you know, there was a lot of things, or when you get food boxes, you know, I grew up getting food boxes, and there was a lot of things that my mom couldn't use because she didn't know how to use them. It wasn't, you know, masa. It wasn't the types of food that we or beans, you know, the types of things that we would be utilizing in the kitchen. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to provide our community with a pantry that was culturally specific and provided and met all of their needs. And so it's kind of set up like a grocery store. You just walk in and then you just grab what you need and you walk out. And then lastly, last but not least, we have our youth development department, and that is me. And so, you know, as the youth development department, we're really focused on creating those culturally specific out of school time program opportunities. And the way that we do that is by making sure that we're creating those hands-on interactive STEAM programming opportunities that really is community and family centric. So we realized in order for there to be that retention and that buy-in, it needs to, one, you need to know your audience and your community and who you're working with, right? So if you're saying it's culturally specific and you have students that are immigrating from different parts of Latin America, but you're not actually providing bilingual classes, then how are they able to participate? Or if you're offering them at right after school, when you know that parents don't get off work until 4:30, for example, right? So there's a lot of specific things that we need to think about when we're creating our programming to make sure that it's actually going to work for our community. And the one way to make sure that that is being done is by having those conversations and making sure that you're actually getting their feedback and their buy-in. And so for us, just to talk a little bit about the programs that we do, we believe STEAM is really important, and especially that emphasis on the A, the art, because as we know, a lot of times that's the first thing to get defunded. It's also very expensive to access a lot of those art after school programs, or even just STEM after school programs in general. So one of the big things we want to do is just make sure that we're able to connect to our students how these programs relate back to the real world, right? Just reminding them that when you are coming up with something, how is that art? How is cooking chemistry, right? And how is me sitting here and brainstorming and drawing out these sketchings art, but also engineering? So it's just making sure we're always tying those back into one another. And so how do we get this done? Meet the dream team. I have myself, we have Erin, who is our youth development manager, Alemi, who's our program coordinator, Daleth is our digital literacy program coordinator, and Alicia is our academic support specialist. And so we offer a variety of programs. We have a robotics pipeline. We have that goes all the way until high school. So this is the high school program. This was just something to know because I'm very proud of our students. This was their second year doing this program, and it grew from 4 students to over 10 students that you see here. And this was their second year actually qualifying for state championship. So we're very proud of all the work that they did. And there was a lot of artistic abilities that the students didn't realize that they had to utilize as well. So a lot of the students had to learn how to 3D print. They had to learn how to 3D model, and they actually started taking some of the students that didn't think they were very engineering based, started taking a lot of their sketches and actually learning how to 3D model and turn them into designs. And so now they're taking the art piece that they've learned and actually integrating it with the technology piece. So that's always great to see. We have, again, our digital literacy courses that provide our students with a variety of equipment and skills. So they'll learn how to use the Cricut, vinyl cutter, heat press, 3D printers. And one of the things that we also do is just make sure that they integrate a project. So at the end of the year, the students have to come up with, use these technical skills to actually make something. And so we had a student that made a Hello Kitty head and put little lights on it and then someone else made a fan. So there's just a variety of projects that the students are learning how to do. Early Escalera is our 9th grade college and readiness program that we have. And then this year, again, because our parents came to us and said that they really felt a need for a tutoring program, we launched a tutoring program for the very first time with the only middle school in Washington County, in the Forest Grove School District. And so we pick the students directly up from the middle school and take them to Cornelius Library, because we also realize that our students are traditionally disconnected from the everyday academic school system because there's a lot of trauma tied there. And so we wanted to make sure that we were giving them a neutral space to be able to learn and create that trusting relationship. And then in the summertime, where we have a summer STEAM program that we run for 1st to 12th graders. And that'll be coming this July 15th to August 8th. And our first week will be art, our second week will be chemistry, our third week will be engineering, and our fourth week will be geology and archaeology. And so I just wanted to touch a little bit about those programs, and then now getting to the nitty-gritty of the placemaking and the Metro grant. So we were awarded $25,000 for this, for specifically our Baile Folclórico program, which I will touch on a second. But I also just want to give you a background on who our students are and, you know, what our demographics look like. So we have 225 students that have been impacted this year. From that total household impact, that comes down to 837 individuals. We have an average household income of about 40,000. When you look at our ratio, we have a 55% female ratio. And then in terms of our ethnicity distribution, the majority of our families are Latino and Hispanic. And when we look at the free and reduced lunch, most of our students qualify for free lunch. And so in terms of the language distribution as well, you'll notice that we have a variety of students that just speak Spanish and students that speak both English and Spanish. And then our smaller chunk is the English. So Mariposas Folclóricas is a program that came to be because we had a need from our community. The parents came to us and said, you know, we've been wanting a Baile Folclórico program for a very long time, and the schools have finally decided to start one up, but the way that they went about it was in a way that they have to audition, and there's a certain amount of spots, and it's not for all age ranges. So there's a specific age range, and so it's for the older students. And so they were like, we want something for our younger kiddos, and we want to, you know, not have to worry about whether or not they're even going to make it. So because of that, we started our own Baile Folclórico program, and it's free. We have 2 cohorts. We have a K through 2nd grade cohort. That was the first cohort that we launched. And this year we were actually able to expand to also include a 3rd to 5th grade cohort. And some of the performances that they've done so far, we have a lot of cultural events throughout the year, and also a lot of partners have reached out to us about asking if our if our students can perform. So we have, our students have performed at El Día de los Niños, the Cornelius Library, Hag Lake, El Grito, and the Pacific University Powwow. And so here are just some photos of our students from El Día de los Niños in 2023, and then El Grito in 2023. And for those of you that don't know, El Grito is a big event put on, and a lot of different regions will also have it, but it typically there's a lot of Latin American countries that celebrate their Independence Day around the same time. And so we just have a big event, and we call it El Grito because that was the name traditionally given in Mexico when they won the independence. There was a big grito, which kind of stands for like a chant, a yell, and so now it's a traditional, and so when people say El Grito, that's typically what they're referring to. And so we have this yearly, and they performed, and they will be performing again this year, and this will be the first year for our 3rd to 5th grade cohort performing because, like I mentioned, it's their first launch, so they haven't gone the full calendar year yet. And in terms of one of their performances, right? So we are very specific about making sure that our performances are really taking place in public spaces. And one of the main reasons too is because we realize that there is a lot of there's not always a lot of trust within our community, and they also just don't know. Sometimes they feel like they don't have ownerships of certain spaces. Like, for example, we know our students performed at the Hillsborough Civic Center once, and some families have been there before, but there was a lot of families that it was their first time being there before, and they were like, oh, this is nice, oh, this is new, right? And so by being intentional about where we are in creating or having these performances, we're really making sure that we're fostering that inclusivity, and we're really building that trust within our community, and making sure that they see themselves in those spaces and really build that ownership as well. And then, although Hag Lake is a place that our families have gone to a couple times, they just really felt that cultural connection afterwards, and they felt like, in a way, they had left a little bit of their identity in that space, and now they feel like it's a little bit more of them. And when they come back, they have a very different view of it now. We also have a video here from one of the Dia de los Niños performance that the students did. So this is our new cohort performing, and this was recently, just in April. And so one of the things I will note is that one of the things that our dance instructor has tried to do is incorporate a lot of the older traditional dance forms, and which you'll see a video. This next video is more of a traditional dance with a traditional song, but morphing those traditional dances with some of the newer songs. So this is more of a newer song, and this is more traditional. And so this is at the Pacific University Powwow. And so, for us, we found this very, the student union, or I forget the exact title, but the students reached out to us because they were doing their first powwow at Pacific University, and they wanted to make sure that our Baile Folklorico group was included, and they made a very clear point to say, we want to make sure that we're strengthening those Indigenous and cultural connections, because we are also Indigenous populations. And a lot of times, even within our own communities, we don't always identify that side. And so just remembering the cultural history and being invited in by another group of Indigenous community members. Our students they learned a lot, and they felt afterwards like they were connected to a deeper part of their community and others' communities that they hadn't felt before. And again, going back to that space, a lot of the students they live in Forest Grove, but they never actually been inside of Pacific University or their gym. So it created another opportunity for the students. And not only that, but we had some students saying like, hey, I might go to college here one day, right? And so it's like a variety of different seeds that you're planting by being intentional about those spaces and those connections. And so this is, like I mentioned, more traditional, both the dances and the music. And so another thing I wanted to note as well is Centro, we don't just have our, so we had our Baile Folklorico program, and then we also have a senior program called Edad de Oro. And they said, well, we want a Baile Folklorico group. And so we were like, okay. So they have their own Baile Folklorico group. And not just that, but, we think it's really important to bridge those generations and really create that, being intentional about creating those relationships and identifying the bond that we can learn from our elders in terms of even our own heritage. And so we have been very intentional about making sure that we are creating those spaces for them to have performances together and to share this space together, so that we, make sure that we're preserving it across all generations. And just to talk a little bit about the impact that our programs have, we do pre and post assessments of, and that's something that we have been more intentional about doing too, just to make sure that we're, measuring the impact and having something to share aside from the anecdotal evidence that parents share with us, that I will also share with you all in a minute. And so if you look about pre and post allowed to express culture, so in this case, the pink is the after. So you'll just notice the difference. A lot of, in general, they felt like they were allowed to express their culture. And then they feel included in the program as well, just looking across. And asking questions about culture, they feel like they can ask questions about their culture and who they are. Our students also feel like staff represents their culture and who they are. We think it's very important, especially because we know that a lot of time imposter syndrome, it's something we can all deal with, but especially our communities of color. And so we want to make sure that we're providing our students with mentors that look like them, with individuals that are able to even just communicate with them, right? And so some of the other questions and feedback that we've gotten from them is like they feel very comfortable asking for help. And they see themselves represented in the program, and they feel respected in the program. They also enjoy learning new things, and for the most part, they like to solve complex problems. And then something that for us, even just like enjoying the food and snacks, we think is very important, because we know that a lot of times our students don't eat, especially when they're at school, because they don't like the traditional school lunches. And so we are very intentional about making sure that the food, even the snacks that we're providing. So we have a kitchen here, and this have been working with our kitchen crew to actually make the food for our students. So we provide them with snacks and with meals. And so like frijoles con una quesadilla, carne asada, right? Things that they would traditionally be eating at home. We just make sure that we're also providing that to them, and they love it. So we were happy to see that. And then just in general, even things like completing their homework, even with the programs that aren't related to homework, we just try to make sure that we're always touching on those educational pieces and making sure we're reconnecting our community to that academic system. And of course, this would not be possible without the great partners that we have. We have Metro, Chill Foundation, Washington County Parks, Society of Hispanic Engineers, Intel, Oregon State University, Tualatin River Keepers, Portland Metro STEM Hub, and a lot more. They all are what allow us to make this possible. So thank you. I appreciate you all. I know that was a lot of information, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Angeles. I'm going to really quickly recap what I just heard you say. And there's such important things that I heard. And one of the things that's really interesting is we did a Road to Recovery tour in the US, and what I would call the intervention that I see in what you're doing with Centro Cultural is actually a ground up bridge for community through health, wellness, and a community-centered wraparound service intervention that actually essentially is holding a group of people so that they can properly blossom and flourish in their space. And I think that's so powerful. And some of the things that I heard was how you're giving back to community and to the migrant families, workers, and refugees who regularly in our country face discrimination and targeting from police and all the ongoing issues of racism in America, even though many of these folks are the ones who are actually growing and planting and harvesting our food. Also, that you listen to community and these founding families to create the wraparound services that you're doing, and you're listening to what community needs and finding ways to provide it, and also how the community takes in the personal growth and empowerment that you are sharing with them, and also how community health is access to resources, and community health is access to having a voice in shaping public policy, and it's also having a voice in being a part of the building of entrepreneurship and workforce, and also how housing stability is really important to being able to age in place and even build community. And I think it's amazing the amount of wraparound support, and especially also that it carries over into having a mercado where people can get their culturally specific foods and feel at home. We all know that at home is where you're nurtured and nourished, and having that space for that nourishment, and how the youth development is so important to you, and making sure that there's these culturally specific, family-centric, bilingual, and also doing work that is really relevant to your community and what they are asking for. And I love the intentionality in the use of public space. We've seen a lot of times, a lot of people not only don't feel like they belong, but they don't venture out. And the fact that you've chosen to bring families and community into those spaces through art is such an important part of opening groups to having a love and appreciation and a sense of acceptance in space, and acceptance in the ability to actually share the beauty of their art and their culture with others, and also being able to see how you recognize that it's so important that all of this is connected back to the generations of community and the familial bonding, and also making sure that everybody is well fed. And I think that's a really powerful, and I heard you, and I think that a lot of communities can learn from this wraparound service, because the bridge that's needed isn't necessarily provided in all places to have this honored.
Thank you. Yeah, so you can tell I'm very passionate about the work that I do. And, one of the things that I will just add, is that I think it's really important, going back to what you mentioned about providing those wraparound services, just because, unfortunately, our families don't always come to us because they're like, oh, hey, what great educational programs are you offering, right? A lot of times they come to us because they have a bigger need. It's, hey, can you help me? I have this electrical bill due. I have this happening. I need to find housing. But as a part of that, they're able to then access all the other programming that we have and create these deeper connections as well. So thank you for having me.
Okay, so we are open now to questions from folks, and we can, if there are any, Ryan, that you see already, otherwise we can start with some of the questions that we had that came in from folks earlier.
Yeah, I see our good friend Braxton has her hand up. And Braxton, if you want to start your video, you can talk into the group, or you could just do your audio or whatever you like to do.
Let me see if, yeah, my video's not working. I just got a new laptop because my other one went up in smoke yesterday. So no camera yet, but hopefully you can hear me okay. I actually just wanted to give a shout out to Madeline and say thank you for being such a thoughtful facilitator throughout this series. I am continuously struck by your analysis after each of these presentations, and how kind-hearted and genuine and thoughtful they are. And as an audience member, it helps me kind of integrate the lessons better and connect dots and see things that I hadn't thought of after hearing your summary of them. So I just wanted to say thank you to you for your thoughtfulness throughout this series.
Thank you for saying that. And a lot of the things that are being shared, we've seen in a lot of other places. And one of the things that really like hit me about Angeles is that in the community of Santa Ana, which is an 80% Latino community, we also have this situation where there was a lot of families who never go into the downtown. They've never been to the beach. They've never experienced a lot of the whole of California, because a lot of times people stay secluded. And when we talk about public space and we talk about the stewardship of public space, everybody has to feel like they can be participants and actors and makers of that space. And so it's so powerful just to recognize like that there is a necessity of these bridge community and folks that can actually help community go through that process and prepare themselves. And then by the next generation, the kids and everybody will be fond and loving because they grew up in them.
And Braxton, while we have you on the line, you're coming from Phoenix and you're kind of a rising star there with several different organizations. What you also participated in, I think, multiple of these sessions. So if you could reflect back anything that you've been trying to learn from this or might be able to bring to your work in Phoenix and the organizations you're working with.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I apologize for not introducing myself. I just started as business development manager at Downtown Phoenix Inc. going on 3 months ago. And Downtown Phoenix Inc. is a community building organization that has a number of initiatives all geared towards making downtown Phoenix an inclusive, thriving, vibrant place for everybody to live in. And my role specifically is focused on the data management side. So looking at things like office occupancy and new multifamily projects being built. And then I also do a component of small business technical assistance. And I just have a personal interest. I kind of recently got into this career field just out of a personal interest with what it is that makes communities vibrant, and how do we, as residents and as change makers, help make our communities better places to live. So I'm here to kind of take all of the wonderful knowledge that comes from the work that you folks are doing, and see how I can bring that back into the work that we're doing here. And it's also really cool because I have my colleague Florentina that's been participating in this series as well. And so we have a district here downtown that is going through revitalization and redevelopment. So there's a lot of really good knowledge that has come out of this series, and that Placemaking US helps facilitate in general. So very grateful to the work that you're doing, Ryan, and to the work that all the folks in this series have been doing.
Thanks. We're so glad to have you, and that it's been valuable for you guys. And I saw Florentina popped up for a minute, so I don't know if she had a question she wanted to ask, but we'd love to see the face behind the comments or hear the voice if you'd like.
Hi, hello everyone. I don't know. I think my camera is not working. Just as just as Braxton, just to I don't know what's happening here downtown Phoenix. Something's blocking our view. I didn't get a new computer. It didn't blow up. It's not because of the heat. So it's just a coincidence. I'm really grateful for being able to participate and to learn from all these case studies, and being able to get everything in. And as Braxton said, I'm very, very grateful to Madeline for kind of underlining the silver lining, let's say, in all of the works that we have been seeing over the past 3 days. So thank you for that, and I'm looking forward to participating in such gatherings again. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I had a question, I think maybe for Angeles, but it's kind of maybe a multi-parter, but my question was, the Metro grants are, it seems like they're kind of a one-time, grant, and it sounded like you got it for $25,000. So how did that kickstart your program? Was it that created the proof of concept that then your organization decided to fund the Folklorico program in some other way? Or how does that one-time type of funding turn into this, very scaled, awesome program that's serving, multiple youth cohorts and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we started this program, we did not have the funding to run it. We were kind of taking funds from like, okay, we got a little extra left over from this one grant. We got a little extra left over from this other grant. Oh, you're willing to help us out and give some lessons discounted. Okay, great. Right. Like it was just community coming together and just scrounging up funds where we could to be able to launch this, because we knew that our community needed it, they wanted it, and we wanted to be able to provide that. And we figured if we had, sometimes you just got to start the program and then show the capabilities of what it is, right? And then that's where you can get more of that funding. And that's kind of what happened. We got something going, we were able to show what we had to Metro, and now we have these funds that are now able to solidify us for another year where we can actually take this program to the next level and again continue to grow it. So then we're more more able to invest in it and get more funding opportunities, whether it be through Metro or through other places as well. So for us, we are aware that, it is difficult sometimes with those one time, because, if you don't have anything lined up for after, then it can be very difficult. But if you're able to be strategic and use it to grow and get more people into this partnership, then it can be very helpful and very useful. So shout out to Metro.
Yeah, and so that's great. And so tacking onto that, the Metro grant seems like it's a really nice sized, grant. It's not too complicated to fill out the application, and it seems like most awards are around that.
So nice, so easy. I mean, I will say I've had like $5,000 grants that make it so difficult. And I'm just gonna be honest, because that's the type of person I am. As in nonprofits, it's really hard, right? We already are doing so much, but then when you're trying to get funding, and sometimes people are creating more barriers to access that funding because you're not allowing community members, or you need to have 2 or 3 years of audits. And audits are important, but an organization needs to get to a certain place before they can reach that level. And so Metro, the grant application process was so nice. Or you even had the video option, which was something I've never seen before, but I can definitely sit there on video and talk to you like I just did about the great programs I have. But not everybody can sit there, or not everybody has a grants department that has the time and effort to put in to have to give you all of this work for, $5,000. And then you just spent like $1,000 of somebody's time to actually do that application. And not just that, but then the grant reporting can always be another barrier, right? Because you do want to be able to report back all the great work that you've done, but but sometimes it can be done in a way that is actually creating more barriers for the organizations. And I will be very honest that I very much appreciate how easy Metro made the application, and even just looking at the reporting back. And I think it's also just showing a trust within the organizations that you're working with, right? That we've allocated these funds, and we know that you're going to do the work, and we are going to ask you to show us that you're doing the work, but we're not going to make it difficult for you.
Awesome. And then Dana, kind of to you, something that was like a poignant moment was the other day when Luano was talking about his project, which has, seen a lot of growth over a long time, was those really early stages where it was the community engagement, the lighter, quicker, cheaper, the little lights being put out, and the conceiving. And has there ever been thoughts about funding that outreach component, or like a smaller subset grant, or is that something people should be applying for or creating before they've come to Metro with their baked idea? Or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We have funded I think it's just the magic of what people want to do and the impact they hope to have. And whether we had a grantee several years ago that wanted to do an engagement around a neglected park in North Portland. And they were successful in convincing the grant panel that this was a really good idea. And their grant they created essentially a vision for the park that the city of Portland has since undertaken, and they've won awards for it. And so I think that it just falls within the spectrum of where the kind of like rubber meets the road, for lack of a better word. And I think that people can come to us at the very beginning stages of an idea, and we want to trust them to, here's some money to support you investigating that idea. Or, if they've, like Ballet Folklorico, which has already shown it's demonstrated its value. So I think we're really open to those different stages of a plan. And we, for between $5,000 and $25,000, we're investing in programs that aren't building capital projects. They're not changing a physical structure. It's really, we're in this range where it's really about investing in the community's connections with each other. I think if we were to go higher than that, then all of a sudden people are wanting to build, buildings and whatnot. And that's an important element of community coming together. But we found ourselves in a really sweet spot with this dollar amount. We had $1 million. We could give $1 million away easily, and we'd only be meeting half of the demand. Each cycle is asking for approximately $2 million in really great efforts. And so bumping it up to 450 is still inadequate, but at least it's a lot more.
And today we heard from Angeles, who's in Cornelius, Oregon, so not in the Portland centrifugal force. And it was amazing to hear the scale of the work you're doing. And I know as Placemaking US, we often get calls from smaller communities, and they feel like there's a perceived bias in placemaking towards urban environments. They hear about, Bryant Park in New York City, and they sort of self-exclude themselves. And so could you guys share a little bit about kind of breaking that boundary and how smaller communities can do mighty things with placemaking grants and placemaking?
Well, I'd love to hear what Angeles has to say. But I'll say that it's a challenge that Metro has. Portland is overrepresented in the application pool, and we have to emerge with a somewhat regionally balanced recommendation every year. And so we are always working really hard to try to get out to the smaller communities and help them understand that this is a grant program for them too. And, there's a good connection with Centro and Metro, traditionally a very long time connection. But I think the work that's happening in, outer on the edges of Washington County is really powerful.
Absolutely. And I will add, like I mentioned, we're kind of in this unique area where Washington County, you do have the urban side, but you also have a lot of that rural side. And we, at one point, you could say that Cornelius was, when I was in it, again, I was born here. So I would say when I was born back in the 90s, you could argue it was rural. Cornelius was rural. And now it's with the expansion of the urban growth line, you have definitely more of that urban feel now, or that suburban feel, as they say. But in terms of talking about the money and how a lot of it is divided up, I will say that Cornelius is a small town. We have 13,000 people, and it is 54% Latino, which means in Oregon, it is 54. It is statistically the highest population of Latinos, but Woodburn has a lower percentage, but a larger population. So percentage wise, we're the largest. Population wise, Woodburn is the largest, but that we're in very different areas. And so because of that, we are aware of where a lot of our Latino community resides. And so I would say the funding, I think they're pretty good about allocating and thinking about the different communities and where they are, and making sure that those organizations, whether it be us or other organizations that are serving the Latino community, are getting funded. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I actually answered that correctly.
Yes, and I think there's a question in the chat from Sandra. and she asked, are the monies divided by region? Are the funds allocated on a neighborhood basis? What is a smaller community to metro? And would the economically disadvantaged neighborhood of Rockwood fit in that realm? There are over 85 languages spoken in the small Rockwood neighborhood. I think, Dana, you could probably answer this one.
Yeah, and I would say, to go right to the source, check out the past grantees. We have all cycles listed, but we are always trying to make sure that we're investing in East Portland, in East Multnomah County, in Clackamas County, which is our least represented area, and then Washington County. So we do targeted engagement in those areas, and we're always trying to learn how to do a better job at it. So I would love any recommendations you have. We actually have funded quite a lot of, not quite a lot, because we've only had 88 overall, but we've have a history of investing in Rockwood in this program. And certainly there are areas similar that really, really need that kind of support. So great question.
Yeah, and I would add to that, sometimes there's a big wall between funders and grantees, but Dana has been at this a long time and super accessible and wants to see, grants coming in from diverse geography, and is readily available to, I think, help support applications along the way. And so it's a real lucky situation that you have here.
It's interesting, when I saw Angeles's list of funders, I just had this moment where I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if, like, when a funder is actually creating more inclusive inclusive communities, etc., and they're being successful at supporting those things, there should be an award for that too. Like, we should be able to say, you know what, these funders are doing the work,
Yeah, and I think that kind of, there's one more question. If other folks have one, we'd love to include them. But I had one more, which is that, we're so inspired and excited about this Metro program. It is really unique at the regional government level. We do know of a few states like Vermont and Michigan that have crowd matched placemaking grants. But I was curious, Dana, what do you think is the best resource for people to take to their regional government or local government or even state government from the work that you guys have? Is it the website? Is there a PDF or a video that you feel like are the materials that might help spread this concept further?
That's we haven't had anything packaged to date, but we're bringing a writer on board this summer that we're hoping kind of can create a few different retrospectives that capture the program, capture the impacts, et cetera, because it really is something that, with a small investment relative to what government expenditures are, you really have a huge impact in the community. And like Angeles said, like, it's about building trust. It's about respect and validating community's vision. And government has a long way to go in rectifying the harm that it's done. And this is a small, really effective step to do that. So my hope is that this fall, we have some kind of packaged pieces that really show the value of this type of government support.
Wait, can we ask one last question, which is, what is your greatest joy that has occurred in like a memorable thing about your work that you just want to share as we're leaving?
Well, I think what's really cool is the way that we've centered this program around equity, that in such a specific way that folks who have not been successful in the grant program, when they get feedback, I have a lot of one-on-one meetings, or even in the act of creating the application, thinking of the proposal to be competitive, you create these like real equity outcomes because of the promise of funding. And so we've seen kind of, white organizations change how they work with community. We've seen, like Black and Brown organizations who've never even applied for a grant before, all of a sudden, like, they have come into a position of leadership where they're having exhibits at the Portland Art Museum and, curating artist residencies. So there's just the realm that we want to support. There's people now actively doing that and that weren't necessarily doing it before. So it's a kind of a meta thing, but it's really, really cool to see and feel like very lucky that I get to play a role in that.
And Angeles?
I think for me, it's seeing the impact that it has on my students and my community. I think that's why I always say I have the dream job, because if you told me when I was little that I would actually get to create potentially the programs that I wish that I had access to as a little girl. And not only that, but we have students that have been in our programs for over 7 years now. So we have our first student that just graduated high school this year, and I've known him since he was, oh gosh, what, like 4th grade. And so to me, just watching them grow into who they are, and not only that, but just see that confidence and their family, and the way that just one program turned into this lifelong changing growth and opportunities. I think for me, that's just like continuously rewarding and definitely one of my favorite parts. Oh, I think you're muted.
Madeline.
Thank you so much. This is a great series, and I really enjoyed being a part of it.
Thank you both, Ryan and Madeline. Thank you, Angeles. And thanks to everyone who stuck around for a very, very lengthy and happy conversation. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a